So I want to talk about progress and their crazy good Horde Naxx. In the process of talking about progress, we are seeing Five Sunders Please and their best ever Naxx overall, breaking 38 minutes. Crazy. Just a little bit slower than that, though, is a Horde raid. And I did not expect that raid to be so fast. We have to talk about how. Could have been the best ever raid overall, but what were the differences? What made it so that didn't happen? We'll just get into both of those raids. But Alliance, that'll be part two. Warning, warning, warning. I don't know everything about Horde side by any means. So tell me if I say something wrong in the comments. I always appreciate what you guys are letting me know. Because I'm trying to let you know some different things, right? That's the point of this, where blows my mind how you can have people explaining one boss for 40 minutes and not kill it compared to these speedruns that are now doing Naxx in sub 40 minutes, right? Wild the levels of understanding and repetition that different players have in Naxx. And in the end, sad anniversary is over because it was really fun to watch. There's just going to be less Naxx happening overall. Um, Hopefully not though, right? Hope to see more and more people on Era. Really thankful for the server overall being in the state that it is. Cool to see the growth as people transfer. So if you're seeing this very, very recent after the posting, make sure that you swap your character now if you're going to do that. Make sure that you take care of everything ASAP. Don't wait to the last minute because it's about to be done and then swapped over to TBC. Good luck in TBC. I'm going to make a follow-up video talking about how at first Blizzard failed to communicate. And then right after I made that video, of course, Blizzard did communicate about TBC. And just, I haven't really talked about it since because focus right now is Naxx, right? How did these guys have such a good raid? Let's get into that. No more rambling. This weaker that you're going to see here, it ends up being slightly skewed where the positive negative time slits, they might not be properly showing. Like the overall time of the raid counting down, I think is correct, but the individual timers are not. Notice this speed buff here that has 4 minutes that's ticking down. It's a horde only buff, and 5 minutes is just really tough to work with. So they are invis potting one by one individually. I guess one by one individually. Okay, anyways, moving forward. I try and do this in one take, so sorry if I say silly stuff. I'm going to do that nonstop. Um, but I just want to talk about this Horde Naxx, how it was so good, right? If you didn't know, Progress has been around forever. The amount of records that they have on WoW Classic overall is at this point comparable to no one. They're in a tier of their own in terms of sweatiness that they've kept long term. Does seem in a lot of ways that it's died down, but in other ways, it's just never stopped, right? And it's really, really impressive to see that all the different versions of the game that they stay good on Classic, SOD, Vanilla, TBC, Wrath. I can't even think after that, right? They don't matter to me, but they care about them all, and good for them. Um, but Horde side is just more disadvantaged, where you think Wind Fury is so great, but in the end, on Alliance side, having those paladin buffs, the bop, the salve, the kings, all these things, the synergy of healing, where in this progress raid they have two priests. Priests are used as tank healers, compared to on Alliance side, priests are used as raid healers. Horde has 7 priests here in this progress raid. Horde really favors a shaman taking care of each group. For the Wind Fury, and then the chain heals just bounce and heal everyone, right? Compared to on Alliance side, where a priest has to prayer of heal, and that only affects one group. There's some advantages to both styles, but in the end, I do think that the priest meta is better for Alliance side. But these guys blast, and the first Giga pull is not a blast. They have to drag forward. I think they use an extra AoE shot here. So they handle that really well. Wind Force does not die, fortunately. And not quite the Gigapull that they wanted. So at the start here, I'm not sure how much time is lost. Not much, right? Because they just drag it straight forward. They're just pressing W the whole time. They handled this really, really well. But unfortunate, right? Just not the mental way that you want to start out. So at the start there, I believe they have the Rogue doing that pull. And that's kind of the difference too, right? Where on Alliance side, Paladins doing these different assignments for the Gigapulls is just easier. Most of the time, you do have the Rogue do the outer skip. Really good timing overall at the start here with these patrols. And they're just moving forward, going into their Gigapull now. So they have this weak aura here that shows to use the AoE Ramstein lightning bolts and just gets a Gigapull here, blasts it all down. And I guess it's easier on Horde side with poison cleanse totems, but also everyone just uses EPRs and they blast that first pack. So now they have their Hunter doing the Gigapull. Fairlina trash is all brought to the side. And this is an all-in pull. If something goes wrong here, you wipe, it's over. I guess kind of on that first Giga pull that way too. So second really scary moment. Or third, that Tomb Horror pull is what it used to be called that no one really does now. That pull that you saw at the top there of all the skitters and stuff is really, really safe. So I guess I would say this is like the second really dangerous moment, but it's not, right? They got plenty of blaster damage. They did not use wreck on this. In some groups, this is a big DPS check where you have like 40 seconds, and if you don't kill it, then the ads all come and you're in trouble. Not the case here. These guys all used their wreck on a Nubricon, I believe. Let's just double check that. So I have 5 Sunders, please, here. 5 Sunders. Okay, this one here. Yes, they all wreck on a noob. By the way, we're watching Holy Pala's point of view. Big shout out to this pumper shaman. Definitely a good example of gameplay. And that's one thing I'm sad about with Anniversary being over, where, you know, some of these guys aren't going to be playing anymore, and really hope to see more and more people on Era. Reminder, swap your character. Reminder. I'm going to say it nonstop during this video. Until the transfer is done, just know that all my videos nonstop, I'm going to be saying it. So it's just like a quick timestamp. We're in the last couple days of Classic Anniversary Vanilla, and I'm sad about it. So big difference here is how on Alliance side, the Hunter really can set the pace, where here they just have to set their own pace because the Hunter was involved in the Giga skip, right? Or whatever you want to call it, Fairlina skip. So, like, not a huge deal. These guys are going pretty quick. It's hard to like know exactly how fast the Hunter would be in comparison. They end up being faster overall, kind of, if you look at this timer here. But again, this timer might not be super accurate. I feel like it needs to be maybe 15-20 seconds faster there. So even with that speed buff, the speed buff only really lasts till Fairlina, and that's just not a whole ton of running. Just doesn't make that huge difference overall. So we'll talk more on Alliance side, but it comes down to like one-time consumable usages that Alliance have a couple of. Marbles isn't that big, but the fact that they all use fish liver oil is just really OP. Saves them that 10-15 seconds in the end, I think. Okay, so blast in here. Then the meta evolved with snowballs. That wasn't really ever a thing, but snowball tech, of course, took over. And this pull is a new meta as far as pulling it here and not having to have the hunter bring it in. It allows people to just move straight forward, and it just feels safer. So that's like 3 Petries we've seen now. And they're just going to blast through here. Again, though, I feel like this area could always be sped up, but I don't know. Trash does hit hard. So they all switch and kill that gargoyle. It's marked as skull. And they blast down, only get 1 stack. So good focus by the raid group. And they just all move forward here over and over and over. Got 7 stacks, so only 2 stacks from each set of gargoyles. Again, though, I don't love the raid frames, but looks like people are all pretty low in health, right? So shamans do pump, and they take care of the raid here, but it just feels like constantly less safe compared to Alliance side, right? You have that Judgment of Light, you have just more healing output, it feels like, from the priests. Big element too, I do think that in the end, the flask chugging meta on Era does favor the Horde side more, where shamans are struggling for mana more than the priests. Priests can get by, but shamans, if they don't have any mana, it's just really, really struggle. So they do fine here, but I think that they would definitely appreciate having that flask chugging more than the Alliance side at the end of the day. I don't play healer though, so I can't fully comment on that, but that's just my perspective. Okay, so again, notice how they all put their totems down in the middle. That's what you always want to do on Heigen. So then they blast this down. They all use their lip. And again, that's just kind of like the evolution where people used to save their potion cooldown and everyone would speed pot, and get to Lotheb faster. But now the meta is that everyone lips there. So boss is dead on Heigen. They move forward. Again, just kind of interesting to see that evolution, right? Just small things. So they go right in. And bosses like this, definitely you do feel that slight difference in DPS where all dots can be used. But again, there is no chicken, and that's something that you would often see. I guess the meta did kind of evolve where people would use chicken on Unubricon often, especially if they're using Rec there, compared to using it on Lotheb, but lots of times you would see it on Lotheb anyways. But yeah, just again, I think the bigger thing is the health pool, where Narub can feel really healthy with what looks like to me. No, that's like full mitigation. I guess I never really looked at like what kind of gear is this guy wearing for Lotheb. I would be curious. So we can go to Lotheb. No one's wrecking on Lotheb. Good. So pretty mitigation focused. Not full though, right? We're in Goa with 2% threat. So just interesting to see the different threat choices on, or gear choices for threat versus mitigation on Horde side, where it's just more of a focus. And turns out fine, right? So I would be curious to see how many healers are able to heal here. Not super sure on that based on this UI. Looks like I see at least 2 chain heals there. So maybe 2 to 3. So they got a blast. And this is kind of where they lose the pump, I think. Compared to on Alliance side, this is a huge benefit where they just straight blast forward super, super, super hard. These guys are doing fine, but this just doesn't go super perfect here. The patrols are not super great. So blast this pack down. Great. Move forward. But, like, healers are still all kind of in the back, right? Like, it's just a little slow, and then a shade comes in the back. Just a little bit mixed DPS-wise right there. It's still fast, but it's just not, you know, pure blast. So they get everything down, though. I mean, they're definitely pumping. But I don't know. Compared to Alliance side, again, I think that they're just super fast through this area. Everything dies, though. Still good. So putting on Ramsteins, here comes the area where everyone wants to have lips available, but not everyone. Interesting to see the evolution as far as, like, you don't need all 40 people for this pack if everyone does good AoE that is part of the pull. And I think that level of coordination is just interesting to see. Definitely a higher level. You don't really see this from every group, that's for sure. So yeah, he doesn't lip here. Oh, he didn't have potion available, that's why. It was a couple seconds off. So still went fine. But they just all blast, easy peasy. So yeah, he's smart, he didn't go in, that was good. But while that's happening, the next pull is already done, right? Definitely set up pretty quick. Where you have a tank in there, as well as the priest just setting up the pull. Super fast transition there from the Giga pull into Vesuvius. But it still wasn't enough. When you see here the split, they really lost time from Lothab into Vesuvius comparatively. And it just seemed pretty solid again, right? But it just takes that extra little bit of oomph. They're doing a good job pressing W, but like right here, look. Just kind of stop. Some people are moving forward, but I don't know, it's just not that extra full. And that's because they have to have a little bit of restraint, right? But I don't know, maybe I'm tripping. They're just waiting for the tanks to catch up, but they just couldn't drag these mobs super well, I guess. They are really annoying. Okay, so going into Gothic, again, just a tougher fight on Horde side for amount of extra health that you have. Typically, on Anniversary, these guys are just rocking like 10k health. Super chonky. You definitely feel the difference with that like 1k difference. And with that being said, they get a double pull, and it does end up being kind of sketch, but really good healing overall, and they hold it together. Just so many people on this side, right? 3 mages, a rogue, couple warriors on the other side. Not much. But yeah, big pull here where gargoyles come in, and then the acolytes as well. So Druid gets kind of caught there. I wouldn't have wanted to be like that, but survives. And they get through it. Again, though, that's the struggle there, where chain heal is just more proximity based, where priest just spamming prayer heal there, a little bit safer, just less margin for error. They get through it, they move forward, bada bing, bada boom. So all the trash is gone down below, I believe. They use their speed items after Gothic. They do have to kill these acolytes here. They get pulled from super far away. Okay, so they weren't from these, they were from far away. No sign of a patrol, but that's weird. Okay, those are still needed, maybe. I don't know, he's like pointing at them a lot. Guess they are. Okay, yeah, so a little unfortunate, a little slow there. This is a bit of a downtime. Again, compared to what you saw to the best run. We'll talk about that after, but first just talking about really, really solid Horde raid, where that's like zero downtime. They went in fast, but they just had to wait a little bit for that pack beforehand. So by the time that this gets to the wall here, super, super damaged. Their opener pull is strong. Let's see what percentage all these things are when they leave. Yeah, everything's sub 90. So a really good opener. I think that is really key on this boss, where that extra 5% at the start, you need to be able to blast down Zilliq and Blamo at that same time, and that's what you're going to see in all these top groups, where as soon as Zilliq and Blamo die at the same time, they take the portal and go on to the next wing. Speaking of the next wing, though, you're going to see a little bit of a struggle here. And this is one of like the easiest time losses that they had. So just be ready for that in a second. Again, the right as Blamo dies, plop, boom, perfect. But they go left. So all these guys, I think like Star is the main, no, it's not a main tank, I don't know. All these people went the wrong way. Not a huge deal, but you know, they're now a little bit behind. And that's going to lead now to where everyone's in combat here with these mobs for a long period of time before they die. Retcher is pulled. While Retcher is pulled, they go into the next pack. Retcher's still alive. Dummies go out, everything's brought together. I mean, typically you want to stack everything, right? But just everyone then gets dealt with some AoEs over and over, and the tempo is just a little off now. So they kill this, but like everyone should have been up right there. Just a second slow, right? Then they go. It's all good. But things go a little bit south here. Totems, totems. Yep, they'll get him across. I don't know. I kind of thought that on Horde they would be able to deal with these mini slimes better with all the shaman totems and stuff. But in the end, I guess a mage maybe gets hit by a belcher right here and just dies. I think that might be what happens. I don't think it's one of the mini slimes that hits him. So just gets walloped, and that puts their tempo a little behind to kill it. So all the little slimes are coming up. And I feel like this is a totem problem that we're about to see. So they're still doing it with the little slimes. So now I have a 5er pull. A little slime is right next to them. They're kind of freaking out. They do fine though. Alright, now the mini slimes are dead. But suddenly big slimes. So I think that has to be totems, right? Like, I don't know what else that could be. But just awkward tanks are in the back grabbing these. They just blast them down though. So they get put in the blender. So not like a huge time loss, but just a little awkward. And again, weird in terms of tempo. Definitely didn't need to get those big slimes. I feel like that has to be totems in that back room. Nothing else it could be. So I don't see much badness here, right? Like, sure, there was that double knock up and they had a mage death, but not terrible. But in terms of the tempo compared to the top group, this is really the big gap. So just that extra level of movement, extra level of pump. In terms of like damage output, when I compared the two groups, it's pretty pretty comparable. It's not like that other group blasted a whole ton harder. Um, just faster overall, right? And you can just get good RNG where you don't have any different abilities that you have to deal with as you kill the monstrosities. And obviously, you want to have Belchers compared to Retchers. So easy times here, they blast. So a little hard for me to tell from threat here if there was any issues, but looks pretty good where people that are in top 4 comfortably felt top 4. Again, hard to say if that was because people were throttling or what, but looks like they set up the next pull pretty early here where Rogue is ready to go. So like really good timing overall. And they were able to like drag Grob down like this so that they pulled Grob up, and just like really, really good overall placement here. I thought that this was a really, really good transition. But again, between 4 Horsemen and Patrick, they lost 40 seconds on their time compared to the top run. I think, relatively. Again, a little hard to tell according to this week, or I'm not going to do exact digging in the logs, but overall, it feels like their transition from 4 Horsemen to this area definitely could have been better. But this right here was really, really good. So they get it right over to the grate. Final spot. Just really, really good Grob there. That's like, couldn't really hope for much better. But again, just didn't really gain much. In the end, other group blasted pretty hard. So they use speed stuff to get through the tunnel quickly, but they were already so close that like, I mean, it's good, but just a couple seconds at most. Quickly get Gluth over here, fast kill. They move forward. All right, so they kill them pretty evenly. They don't have to stop damage or anything. They go into Thaddeus. So let's see the timing here. They have the first polarity that happens, and how low do they get it before the next one? That's really the question, right? Blasting away. So just checking on RNG basically. Things are pretty good. If it happens now, just waiting. There it goes. Okay, so it's dead. They move forward with the mage going in quickly. Looks like a mage died though there, so they were down a mage. He already lost his buffs, but you just want to have extra people for polarity or it's slower damage. Or slower kill, because less damage, I should say. So here they go. Swaps on him at the start, little sus, but they lip and it's fine. And then it's time to dummy, and then it's just time to survive. So they move for the blizzard. Lose 1 shaman, not the end of the world. Or is that a shaman? No. Warrior. Alright, so yeah, 1 warrior death before KT, not the end of the world. They quickly move forward here. They get the res, and they just are down that mage, right? They only have 2 mages here because that mage died early, and they couldn't do a summon or anything. They're not going to waste those couple seconds for the mage. So here they go. And that is kind of my one question. I wonder if on the Fairlena pull, instead of using the Hunter, you could use a Frost Mage, since that's kind of like the weakest class for Naxx. If you look at like the utility versus damage brought, where other classes just bring more, and that's why you only need 3 mages now and 1 warlock to get through Naxx, where the old consensus was that you needed to have cursive elements all the time. Speaking to that though, interesting to see like the two choices where some people really argue for MPA on this boss, so then you can do cursive elements or cursive weakness compared to just sundering and using cursive wreck, where if the rogue gets CC'd, then you lose MPA and you lose all your benefit. Just like that small percent chance of gamble if you want to do that versus the small damage increase of COE. But overall in a raid, you just don't have COE, right? So you just have to hope for a good KT. On KT, all you really care about is hopefully mind controls don't happen at the same time as Frost Blast, and if a melee group gets hit by Frost Blast, hopefully it's just one. But again, if either of those things happen, you are just having a slower kill. It's all about not dealing with mechanics. So praying and hoping that mechanics don't happen. And that's basically what happened for Progress. Very, very good KT kill that you see here. I believe that they used their rec. Let's see that again, though. I don't remember where their second rec is. Sorry, I went off at the last second, but super, super clean, easy kill. Do they rec on Seth? Casts. Recklessness. Yes. So they had like an 18-second kill, I believe. 18 seconds, yep. Compared to 5 Sunders, please, that had a 15-second Saffron. Both those raids used rec. Compared to 5 Sunders, please, that had a 15-second Saffron, and most of those guys didn't use rec. So we'll get into some of those craziness after. But just want to talk briefly about this run. Just how the extra health pool really helped. One point I didn't highlight too much is at the start here, how tempo is everything, right? And right here, you're going to see a warrior get down to like literally 1 health. And on Era, this guy dies. 1 health right here. Not the case. And that difference really, really matters in speedruns. Interesting to see the makeup where in Horde side, you don't have the Warlock in the group for Imp because they already just have so much health, right? Same thing that you're seeing from the compositions on Alliance side. They don't even need the Blood Pact for the tanks. They could have more health. They're just going for pump in comparison a lot of times. So if you compare the kill times, let's go to 5 Sunders, please. So 5 Sunders, 26-second a noob versus, sorry, Progress on Horde side had 4 seconds faster on their Anubricon compared to the best run ever, right? Progress had a really fast Anubricon. A little bit slower on Faralina, and then Maxna. Progress was a little bit slower. Progress was faster on Noth. Progress was slower on Hygen, a little bit slower. Oh, sorry, faster on Lotheb. Interesting. Slower on Resuvius, but that's partially because of the way that they were so good at the priest setting up the pull. I don't really know in comparison to how 5 Sunders Please was. We'll have to see that. But pretty close kill times compared. You see Patrick 128 compared to 120. So big difference from 5 Sunders Please there where they really blasted on Patrick. And then Grob, 1 minute compared to a 47-second kill. So that's interesting, right? 5 Sunders Please just really blasted on Grob. And then Gluth, again, 5 Sunders Please, a couple seconds faster. Thaddeus, comparable, exact same time. And Five Sunders, please. They kind of got griefed on their Thaddeus. They felt like they lost a lot of time on theirs, so they could have been like 10 seconds faster here. Point being, though, is that these raids were about the same kill times overall. Pretty comparable. Difference was slight pacing and just ability to balls to the walls, press W at every opportunity, and to stack things as much as possible. Anytime that you can go turret mode and deal with more at once is better. And you're just going to end up seeing that a little bit more from Alliance side. Again, a little bit of different consumable usage, just the one-time consumable that they have with the fish liver oil, but otherwise pretty comparable. And at the end, I think it just comes down to slightly cleaner run, right? Where Five Sunders, please, they didn't have a single DPS die. The slight shenanigans in A-Bomb Wing ended up being a little bit of time combined with Spider Wing, where there was a little bit of shenanigans also. So trying to stall for another 2 minutes so I can say that I talked about Progress's raid longer than it actually happened, right? Like, that to me is crazy. Takes a lot of dedication to have raids like this, right? That's the cool thing about a server that has such few weeks. You feel like you can just throw it all away at the end, right? Put it all out there and do the best that you can. And it's cool to see when people are able to have good raids. So again, not too much pressure for Eternal, but it'll just be interesting to see how they do with that later. Just knowing that it is the last raid, it's interesting to see when raids handle that well versus those that don't. And again, both Five Sunders Please and Progress did that today, so big props to them. Interesting to see here if you just like notice how even a lot of the damage is amongst the top players. Comparatively on Alliance side, it feels like often there's one DPS that gaps the others a little bit more. Sometimes that happens on Horde side too, but just like quite even overall. And everyone has over 1k DPS besides 3 tanks. And all the mages. So mage almost broke 1k, but not quite. And that's just the reality, right? Like, mages are brought for their decurse and some other slight elements. But let's just like look at their damage output, where it's just not much AoE, right? Like, the amount of AoE that they end up being able to do isn't that much. So just interesting. And overall, interesting to note how much healing the druid has to do. Maybe not has to, but it definitely felt like they just fill the gaps in terms of both healing the main tank for more safety and just sometimes giving some off healing. Actually, pretty little off healing. Geez, only 1 or 2 times. So they just help give that extra safety to the main tank, it looks like. Of course, number one thing is Fairy Fire, but again, Druid is doing like no damage in this raid. That's different than what you see on Alliance side, where Druid take even more of a support role. Pretty comparable Hunter damage on Horde and Alliance side. Okay, I did it. Talked longer than the raid. It's crazy how fast those raids are, right? So big shout out to these guys for the raid. I'm trying to think of other things that I wanted to talk about. I don't have like the nice way to look at different trinkets and that kind of stuff right now. Should have come more prepped. If there's things that you want me to talk about in the future, definitely let me know. Trying to go to Kiss the Spider. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 kisses. So pretty stacked. Crazy how many people have strong gear here. So we'll click summary, scroll down, and just take a quick look. 1 KT sword, 2 KT swords. The rogue does not have KT swords, hopefully. Thank God. Let's keep going. So what, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm counting the KT dagger as well. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So lots of KT weapons. Very many. Over 20. Stacked raid. Again, just fascinating to see the splitting that can happen. So that's possible, right? The different raid groups within of running 3 back-to-back raids really does benefit making a main roster strong like this, where the 2 practice raids can be really, really good. You can have like, 40, 45-minute raids realistically for these guys, but you know that your best run is going to be that raid where everyone is on their mains, they have the most damage, they have the most KT swords, right? So they put it all out there and they had a good one. Glad that happens. And I'm curious to see what happens on Era moving forward. But now, boom, part 2, we're going to talk about Alliance side, and let me get into that now.